Have you ever wanted to personalize a gift to one of your friends? Cards can be an easy way to share and give love. Come and follow Card Culture as we work through the process of making simple greeting cards. Hi everybody, it's Peg, and today I am starting on my new series, which is called Card Culture. Now, I'm going to start from the very beginning, and many of you have been making cards for a lot of years, but you might pick up a few tips by watching some of these things. Remember, you can always fast forward, but I want to talk about the basics of card making. Now, this is where I started with simple images and simple inks and just making very simple cards. These are actually informal note cards. They're announcements, and they're smaller than the standard half sheet size. Normally, when you're making a card, it's half of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. These are smaller than that. If you notice, because I like to make little note cards just to tuck inside of things, this card is 3.5 by 5 inches. So they're a much smaller card, but you can pick these up. Go to your office supply and you can get them in boxes. I bought these a long time ago from a paper company, and they come in these sets with both the card and the envelope so that you have all of this ready to roll. So they're pre-scored. You know, they're scored down the middle, and you want to fold them in towards the score when you're folding. And I have a Teflon bone folder. I think this is the best if you're going to be creasing paper because it does not leave marks on your paper. So just, you know, as you line this up, use your Teflon bone folder to fold that down. And there you have a card. Let me get this in here a little bit closer. It's kind of out there a ways. Okay, so inks. That's the next thing you're going to need, inks and stamps. So there are any number of inks on the market. There are dye-based inks, and you're going to say, well, what do you mean dye-based inks? Well, if you read the back of the stamp pad, it's going to tell you whether it's going to move with water or not, whether it's a permanent archival ink, or whether it's going to move, whether it's going to stay wet long enough to emboss. And these are all terms that are going to be a little bit foreign to somebody who's new at this, but we're going to work through this series. So these distress inks move with water. So if I put some of this ink down on a card, like so, and it is on there and I wet it, it's going to move. I need to get some water up here. There we go. So if I wet it, it's going to move. You see how that bleeds out? And if you don't want an ink that bleeds out, then you want a permanent archival ink. And for that, you're going to pick something like this that says permanent waterproof. Okay? And I don't care which ink you use as long as it's saying waterproof on it. You know, then you're not going to have those issues. So this one is from Ranger. It's a designer series from Wendy Vicky. This one is from Hero Arts. They call it a shadow ink. It's a mid-tone pool, but if you read the back of it, it also says acid-free, archival, fade-resistant, waterproof with watercolor markers. Doesn't mean that you can use alcohol on it, just means it's waterproof to water. So there you go. There's another ink pad. So there's a lot of them on the market. Doesn't matter which ones you get, but you know, when this dries and you wet it, it's not going to bleed out on your paper like the red does. So those are the differences in your inks. For a greeting card, you know, it probably doesn't matter that much. You know, how many times are you going to get your greeting cards wet? So I could use something like this ink on here. You know, if that's the only blue or red or something that I have and I want to use that color, you know, I may pick this particular image and I decide that, oh, I want to make him in a blue tone, this little snowman. So I'm just going to ink up my stamp, and you want to make sure that your stamp is clean. This one is not. So I'm just going to take a baby wipe, and there are all kinds of cleaners out on the market for your stamps too. If you've used a permanent ink, you need a permanent ink cleaner, which is like this. However, you do not use this type of cleaner on anything other than a rubber stamp, because there are a lot of stamps on the market now that are made from other things than rubber, and it will damage them. So you want to make sure that the cleaner that you're using for your stamp is the correct cleaner. But you can see I can clean that dirty ink off of my stamp using a cleaner that is made for that type of ink. And that's what I say, when you're doing this, read the instructions. You know, plain old soap and water is just fine for some of these water-based inks. So you don't need a real heavy-duty cleaner. But if you're going to take something like this off, you will need something that will remove a permanent ink. So now, when I ink my stamp, I want to make sure that the stamp is facing me so that I can see that it's getting wet, that the ink is getting all over that image. And I also want to use a cushion behind my image, or behind my card that I'm going to stamp on, because that way it has a little bit of give, and it's going to connect. This image is going to connect with my surface. So as I ink this up, I can see what I'm doing. I can breathe on it to moisten it with just the breath from my mouth. And I can stamp this image right onto my card. I can set it down. I can leave it alone. I can press on it to make sure it's making good contact. You do not want to rock your stamp, but you do want to make sure that it's making good contact all over. And then you want to pull it straight up. And holding your card, you're going to pull it straight up, and you see that I have a clear stamped image. Okay? So that's pretty cute, but it doesn't really have a sentiment, and it doesn't fill out my card. And because these are simple cards, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time coloring in that, I'm going to use another color. And I have cute sentiments, you know, hearts for you. This would make a cute Valentine. Kindness warms the heart. You know, thank you just for being you. There are all kinds of sentiment stamps out there. So, you know, if you don't have sentiments, you might want to get a set of sentiment stamps. Or you can print some things off. But these are simple one-layer cards. So I'm just going to use one of my stamps. And I think I'm going to use this Kindness Warms the Heart. And for this, I want to use a red. So I'm going to look at the reds that I have in my collection. And this is a very pretty red. It's called Carnation Red. Let's see what it looks like. I test it out, and I think it's a little bit too orange for what I want. So I'm going to grab another red. This is a Geranium Red, which is a deeper red, which I think is going to be a little more appropriate. I like that red a little bit better. So I'm just going to do what we did before. I'm going to look at my stamp, make sure it's clean and ready to go. You know, I've used these stamps, oh my goodness, I can't tell you for how many years. This one is an Inky Antics. The one that I had here is a Judith stamp, Stamps by Judith. So, I mean, there's all kinds of stamps that you can get and use. Just find some images that you like. So I'm going to ink this up. I'm going to look at it, make sure it's nice and moist. breathe on it, and I'm going to stamp that on my card. Just like that. And how simple and easy is that? Now, there's still quite a bit of background on here, and I'm thinking I want to add to that. So I have a lot of these cute little stick stamps, and they come in a lot of different images. And this one, to me, kind of looks like snow because it's got little dots. So I'm going to go back to that blue we were using earlier. And I think this is the one. Yeah, I'm just going to do a few snow dots out here to add to the overall image. And I like the heart on here, so I'm going to grab a marker. It looks like a pink. I want a red. I want a red marker. Test the color. And I'm just going to fill in that heart a little bit with a marker, just to make that the focal point on here. You know, if you do this on just a small piece, that is going to make that sing, okay? So that's your basic cards and the very beginning of what you want to do to create simple note cards like these for gift giving. Now you can make a whole set of these and give them to a friend so that they have note cards in their drawer so that when they're ready to send things out. But this is the simplest form of card making. I hope you join me again for Card Culture, and I will see you again soon. Bye.